Hello. 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 Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
You are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry for the inconvenience, dear participants. Telling you earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
You are audible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you, dear participants. Yes, we are very clear that we are audible to you, and your voice is again audible to us. So kindly mute yourself. Participants are kindly requested to mute yourself, please. It's a humble request to all the participants. Please mute yourself. So, dear participants, as I was telling you that today is the day where our college has organized a webinar on the topic New Education Policy 2020. For this, we have with us a very seasoned academician, Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra ji, Director Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, New Delhi. I extend very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Madam has just joined us.
Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, organizing a webinar on New Education Policy 2022 is a mandatory requirement by UGC for all educational institutions. So, keeping in mind that mandatory requirement, as well as our inquisitiveness to know the intricacies, to have deep knowledge on the new education policy, we have invited Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra ji. I again extend welcome to Dr. Dhingra and Madam Principal. With this, I request our college principal, Dr. Reena Talwar, to formally welcome our guests of the day. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ninu ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are very much audible.
Welcome, Dr. Rajni. It is a matter of immense pleasure that our college has organized a webinar policy 2020 under the aegis of Internal Quality Assurance Cell. Today we have Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra, Director Maharaja Agrasen College has organized New Delhi as a main speaker among us. On behalf of the managing committee, staff members and students, welcome in this webinar. I wholeheartedly thank you because you always accept our invitation on such a short notice. Now coming on the national policy of education. The national policy on education was earlier framed in 1986 and modified in 1992. The NEP 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century and replaces the 34-year policy. Built on the foundational pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability, this policy is aligned to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and aims to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and global knowledge superpower. NEP 2020 aims to ensure that no child loses any opportunity to learn and excel because of the circumstances of birth or background. Special emphasis will be given on socially and economically disadvantaged groups. Children with disabilities will be enabled to fully participate in their regular schooling process. NEP 2020 aims to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, from 27% to 50% by 2035. 3.5 crore new seats will be added to higher education institutions. Undergraduate can be of 3 or 4 years with multiple options and appropriate certification within this period. For example, certificate after 1 year of degree, advanced diploma after 2 years, bachelor degrees after 3 years, and bachelor's with research after 4 years. There are many exit options. The National Research Foundation will be created as an apex body for fostering a strong research culture and building research capacity across higher education. Government will also establish an academic bank of credit for digitally storing academic credits earned from different higher education institutions so that these could be transferred and counted towards the final degree earned. This would who have to drop out of their course due to unavoidable circumstances to resume their program at a later time from where they left it, rather than to start over from the beginning of. One more is a 4-year B.Ed degree will be recognized as a minimal degree for teaching by the year 2030. The public and the private academic bodies will be guided by the same list of accreditation and regulation rules. Bal Bhavans will be established in every state, and this will be a boarding school where the students can take part in art, play, or career-related activities. 10+2 structure will be replaced by 5+3+3+4 structure, which will be focused on the formative years of learning of a student. The structure corresponds to the age groups as follows: 3 to 8 years, 8 to 11 years, 11 to 14 years, 14 to 18 years. School examination will be only held in classes 3rd, 5th, and 8th. Other classes will be accessed by the school authorities. Government aim to make schooling available to everyone with the help of NEP 2020. Approximately 2 crore school students will be able to come back to educational institutions through this new approach. Parakh is to be set up by the government. The same list of accreditation or rules or regulations will be used for guiding both public and private academic bodies, as I have earlier said. Thus, NAP came after 34 years and is all set to change the existing academic system of India with the purpose of making it at par with the international standards of academic. MPhil to be discontinued in new education policy. Over the next 15 years, colleges will be given graded autonomy to give degrees. Affiliation with universities will end, and these institutions will be given the status of deemed to be university. Today, this is a very relevant topic for this webinar, and we have Malhotra Dhingra on this topic. Now, I don't want to come between you and the speaker of the day, because I am sure that we will learn more on the National Education Policy 2020. Once I welcome you, ma'am, in this webinar, and I thank you wholeheartedly that you always accept our invitation. I also congratulate Mrs. Deepak Jyoti, Mrs. Neenu Sharma, and their technical team for organizing such a webinar on a very relevant topic. Thank you so much. Over to Neenu, ma'am. I also congratulate Mrs. Deepak Jyoti, Mrs. Neenu Sharma,
Thank you, ma'am,
for organizing such a webinar.
Thank you very
on
much,
very
ma'am.
relevant topic. Thank you so much. Over to
So
you.
we can say that education today must move towards less on content, but more on radical thinking, creative thinking, adaptability, innovativeness, so that the learners of today
Thank you
very much, ma'am, can be successful entrepreneurs of tomorrow. This new education policy is the first education policy of 21st century that aims to address many growing developmental imperatives of our country. This policy proposes the revision and revamping of all aspects of education structure, including its regulation and governance, to create a new system that is aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century education. So for this new education policy, as I have already told you, that we have with us a very learned and seasoned academician, Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra. Before Madam starts her presentation, ma'am, please allow me to read out your biodata in detail for our participants. Thank you, ma'am. So Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra has an experience of teaching in law for more than 18 years. She is director of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, New Delhi. Her areas of specialization are law of contract and property law. She has many published papers in national and international journals to her credit. Ma'am has authored 6 books entitled Law of Contract, NGO and Protection of Human Rights, Transfer of Property Act and Indian Easement Act 1882, Marginalized Group in India, Legal Mechanism to Combat Inequalities, Legal Protection to Marginalized Groups, and Specific Contracts. Ma'am is lifetime member of Indian Law Institute, member of Board of Studies with Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi. Madam is resource person of many reputed organizations and is proud recipient of Pradhanacharya Shikshak Ratan Samman by Bharat Vikas Parishad in the year 2022. A big lot of applause for Madam. Reading out her biodata is indeed a great pleasure for me. Now I request our worthy resource person to please start with your presentation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good afternoon to Principal Madam and the organization committee and my dear students. Much has been said already about the national education policy, that what national education policy aims for and why we think to have new education policy. I will share my views with the help of a presentation. I am sharing my screen now with you people, and we will discuss that what is the need of education, why education policy is required, whether my screen is visible now. And we will discuss.
No, ma'am.
No. That
Presentation is not visible.
What is the need of education? Why education policy is required? Whether my screen is visible now? Neenu ma'am, I'm sending this thing to you. You can share that because I think so that your system is not permitting me to share. So till the time, ma'am, I have already sent it to you, ma'am. And till the time ma'am is sharing this screen with you, I just explain that why we think about the education. Because according to Swami Vivekananda ji, that education is not the amount of information that is put into your brain and run right there undigested all your life. What education means is that education should be for the life building, man making, character making, and assimilation of idea. Because if you assimilate even 5 ideas and character, you have more education than any man who has got by heart a whole library. Our Prime Minister Modi also said that every country reform its education system according to its national value and goals. The end goal is to make sure its youth is future ready. Because here our aim is to make you ready for the future so that you can stand upon your feet once you will pass out from this organization, from this college. You should be able to get employment. You should be able to contribute positively in the development of the nation. So that is the main idea behind the education policy. And that is why these changes were made. Because now we are talking about access, affordability, and the quality also. Quality of the education should be such that it will make people ready for the future. Neenu ma'am, can you share now the PPT? Affordability and the quality also. Ma'am, quality of the education.
Yes,
should be
madam.
such
Is the screen
that it
visible
will
now?
make people ready for the future. Neenu ma'am, can you share now the PPT?
Yes, ma'am. Is this visible to you, ma'am?
Yes, it's visible. Just move ahead, if
Ma'am?
possible. Move, please.
Visible now?
Yes. One. Right now, we are going to discuss about the need of education policy. We all know that education is fundamental for achieving full human potential. Because with just move ahead, you will not be able to think, you will not be able to get. Now we are going to discuss about the need of education policy. We all know that education is fundamental. There is some human potential. Because with just move ahead, you will not be able to. You will not be able to get. Now we are going to discuss about the need of education policy.
Ma'am, is this okay? Is this slide okay or
No, just
move forward?
move back.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry.
And there is some equal repetition.
Take picture. Ma'am, is this okay? Is this slide okay or
No, just move forward. Move back. It's okay. It's okay.
okay, ma'am?
And there is some repetition for full human development. And because human development is only possible when our youth will be educated. And that is why the SDG State Sustainable Development Goal number 4 talk about the education, that universalization of education. For lifelong learning, it is talking about. It is talking about inclusiveness, that it should not be, education should not be, you can say that only few people are eligible to get education. It should reach to each and every citizen of India, each and every person in the world. That is the SDG 4. And that is kept in mind while framing the national education policy. National education policy, we are talking about that we will include, we will give education to each and every person. Even it talk about the education of the adult people also. That why we should frame the network, we should frame the program where we can give education to everybody. So education is the need of the society. If we want to develop, if we want to live a civilized life, education must be given to each and every individual. Ma'am, please move ahead. Next slide that talk about that this is the need of the education policy. And as your principal madam has already explained that we have revamped the education policy. Earlier it was 1986, and before that 1969, and before that we were following the English model of education. Because this system, the language policy, was made by Lord Macaulay, and it was introduced just because they want to prepare clerk for, so that they can work for them. Because every education system has a motive behind. At that time, they want to produce clerks, so that why they frame the education policy in such a way. But now the situation has been changed. And that is why in 1986, one education policy was made. And in 2020, because now we are going to be a superpower. So that is why now we are insisting that each and every individual should have education. And education कैसी हो? एजुकेशन वो हो जो आपको लाइफ के लिए प्रिपेयर कर सके. अगर मैंने सिर्फ रोड लर्निंग दे दिया और आपने जो पेपर में बस याद किया उसको लिख दिया, लेकिन उसको अपनी लाइफ में इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया, तो वो एजुकेशन हमारे किसी काम की नहीं है। क्योंकि रोड लर्निंग से आप कलर तो बन सकते हो, लेकिन आप नेशन बिल्डिंग के लिए कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं कर सकते। नेशन बिल्डिंग के लिए आप कंट्रीब्यूट तब करोगे जब जो भी आपको सिखाया है आप उससे क्रिटिकल लर्निंग आप में डेवलप होगी। इसीलिए हमने 5+3+3+4 का मॉडल अडॉप्ट किया कि कुछ स्टेजेस हैं जहां पे आपको बेसिक आपकी लैंग्वेज में हम लैंग्वेज सिखाएं। आज ना तो हमें हिंदी अच्छी तरह से आती है, ना हमें इंग्लिश अच्छी तरह से आती है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे सब्जेक्ट हमें स्टार्टिंग में पढ़ा दिए जाते हैं। तो हमने कभी लैंग्वेज की इंपॉर्टेंस को, हमें अभी कभी मैथ्स की, न्यूमेरेसी की इंपॉर्टेंस को इतने डिटेल में नहीं समझा। सो फर्स्ट 5 ईयर दे आर फोकसिंग कि किस पे हो, आपका लैंग्वेज पे। सो वंस यू विल बी ट्रेन्ड इन द लैंग्वेज, वो भी मदर लैंग्वेज, मदर टंग, राइट। सो वहां पे आपकी जो लैंग्वेज है उस पर कमांड आएगी, अपनी लैंग्वेज को आप सीख पाओगे। Then initially in another 3 year, once again, they have focused on language, wherein now the new language will be introduced. English can be introduced to the student. So once again, they give the focus, they give the importance of the education. They give the importance on the language and numeracy. After that, because now हमारा जो ब्रेन है दैट हैज बीन डेवलप्ड, आपने 5 और 3 8 साल लगा दिए, आपको लैंग्वेज पे कमांड आ गया, आपको नंबर पे कमांड आ गया, अब आपकी क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग की टाइम आया। आपका माइंड इतना विकसित हो गया है, योर ब्रेन नाउ कैन थिंक, एंड जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन दी है उसको यू कैन क्रिटिकली एनालाइज एज आई एम डिस्कसिंग समथिंग। लेकिन अगर आप उसको सुन रहे हो एंड योर थिंकिंग लेवल इज नॉट वर्किंग अकॉर्डिंगली, you will not be able to understand what I am going to explain. So critical thinking is very, very important. And that is the focus of the new education policy, that we want creative thinking people. We want the minds that can think creatively and critically, right? Only then you will be able to contribute in the nation building. And after that, that 5+3+3+4. Now in these 4 years, earlier क्या था कि हमने तो आर्ट्स का स्ट्रीम ले लिया या साइंस का स्ट्रीम ले लिया या कॉमर्स का स्ट्रीम ले लिया। मिक्सिंग वाज नॉट परमिसिबल बिकॉज मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी के बारे में हमने नहीं सोचा कि फॉर ईच एंड एवरीथिंग, अगर मैं लॉ की हूँ तो मुझे पॉलिटिकल साइंस की नॉलेज भी उतनी चाहिए, मुझे लैंग्वेज की नॉलेज भी उतनी चाहिए, मुझे क्योंकि आज पेटेंट करवाना है तो मुझे साइंस भी थोड़ा सा आना चाहिए। तो अदरवाइज नो पर्टिकुलर one particular field is not aloof from the other. It's an interdisciplinary, it's a multidisciplinary knowledge that will work and that is required, that will ensure the success of the people. So इस स्टेज पे आपको लिबर्टी दे दी हमने, उसको फोकस ना रख के हमने बोला कि आप जो सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना चाहते हो, जो आपके हिसाब से आपको अच्छा लगता है, जिसमें आप डेवलप कर सकते हो, ग्रो कर सकते हो, यू कैन टेक द सब्जेक्ट फ्रॉम डिफरेंट स्ट्रीम ऑल्सो। तो स्ट्रीम में मैंने आपको बांध के नहीं रखा, मैंने आपको लिबर्टी दे दी कि यू कैन टेक द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ योर चॉइस आफ्टर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द नीड, कि आप किस प्रोफेशन में जाना चाह रहे हो, आपकी क्या नीड है, आपका क्या इंटरेस्ट है, अकॉर्डिंगली यू कैन सेलेक्ट द सब्जेक्ट. So these are the few basic of national education policy, because madam has discussed 5+3+3+4 formula. So what is the rationality behind that? I explained that this is the rationality कि हमने language को importance दिया, हमने numeracy को importance दिया, हमने critical thinking को importance दिया, और हमने multidisciplinary language के बारे में सोचा कि ये चीजें, जो 4 चीजें हैं, ये बहुत important है अगर किसी nation को grow करना है। क्योंकि जो चीज मैं अपनी language में सीख सकती हूँ, मैं दूसरों की language में, मेरे लिए उसको सीखना is very, very difficult. राइट जब मेरी अब आज की लैंग्वेज है या आपकी लैंग्वेज है, तो हम इंग्लिश है, हिंदी और इंग्लिश को हम मिक्स करके बोलते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी कमांड शायद किसी एक पर्टिकुलर लैंग्वेज में उतनी नहीं है, और जहां दूसरों को समझाने के लिए हमें लगता है कि हम थोड़ा सा मिक्स लैंग्वेज का इस्तेमाल करें। सो नाउ इन नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी दे सेड कि अपनी लैंग्वेज में हम बच्चे को अगर समझाते हैं उस एज में, जब वो बच्चा टेंडर एज का है, तो उसको ज्यादा उसका ब्रेन डेवलप होगा, राइट? एंड दैट इज व्हाई दे सेड फॉर 5 years बेसिकली ओनली द लैंग्वेज काइंड ऑफ थिंग, एंड दैट इज बाय प्ले वे मेथड, राइट? इट्स नॉट द test kind of thing. It's not about the rote learning kind of thing. It's not about the exam. It's just learning in the playway method. If I'm clear about up to this, then we will move forward to the objective, that what are the objective of this national education policy. I'm now not taking the help of the PPT because it is creating hindrance. So ma'am, if you want to unshare, you can do so, because we are not able to make a pace because there is a technical fault from my side. I'm not able to share and I'm not able to keep pace with you. So you can unshare. I will just deliver my lecture as it is. So with this, now I'm just explaining that what are the objective. First is to universalize education and make India a global knowledge superpower. हम कहते हैं कि इंडिया जो है यंग इंडिया है और अब वी आर गोइंग टू रूल द नेशन वर्ल्ड. कैसे करेंगे रूल? उसके लिए हमें एजुकेटेड यूथ चाहिए. तो जब मैंने एजुकेशनल सुपर पावर बनूंगी, टेक्निकली स्ट्रांग बनूंगी, only then I will be able to rule the world, right? मेरे पास यंग इंडिया है, लेकिन अगर वो यंग इंडिया इलिटरेट है, यंग इंडिया अगर अपने माइंड का सही यूज नहीं कर पा रहा, यंग इंडिया अगर बीमार है, उसकी मैंने फिजिकल हेल्थ की तरफ ध्यान नहीं दिया,